The Man from Medan, written and read by Eric Allen, Part 2. Almost an hour and a half later, Mike returned, having showered and shaved. His black hair was still damp, and he smelled of shampoo. "We don't have much space," he said. "Can cram maybe 10 people in there, 12 at the most." "How about food and water?" Kelly asked. "We'll have to raid their stores," Mike replied as he maneuvered himself back into the seat at his workstation. "If we don't, we've got food enough to last 3 people for 2 months. Bump that up to 15 people and, well, not so much. Water should hold, especially after they start pissing into the recyclers." "Okay," Kelly said. "We still haven't been able to make contact. We don't know what shape they're in or how many survivors there are. And the Orion Sword can probably take a lot more than we can when she gets here," Lucy pointed out. "There is that," Kelly nodded. "But when you plan for the worst, you're usually pleasantly surprised. Get scanning, Mike. We should be close enough now to get some sort of readings from them." "On it, boss," Mike said. He could piss and moan with the best of them, but when he had something to do, he rarely complained about it. Mike swiped and poked at holographic controls for a bit, and frowned. "I've got no velocity. They're completely still. Dead in the water," he said. "That's weird," Lucy said. "Why would they come to a complete stop all the way out here? Objects in motion stay in motion, right? They'd have to consciously stop the ship, or it would have just continued on at the same velocity on their same heading." "Any debris?" Kelly asked. "Not that I can see at this range," Mike replied. "Huh, that's weird. Their engines are dead cold, and I've got no reading on the reactor." Kelly gave a low, descending whistle. "Now that's an expensive thing to fix," she said. "Tell me about it," Mike said. Hull appears to be intact. They're still pressurized. I've got atmosphere inside, and heat. Whoa, a lot of heat. Almost 38 degrees. "How's it so hot inside with their reactor shut down?" Lucy asked. "This far from the sun, they should be freezing." "Maybe it malfunctioned and flooded the ship with enough heat to fry everyone inside before they could get it completely shut down," Mike suggested. "Makes sense," Kelly said. "We getting any life readings inside?" "Nada," Mike replied. "Not detecting any survivors at all. But we are still a ways out. That's a Class B freighter. Standard crew is 55. They can't all be dead, right?" "So," Lucy said, "what happens if they're all dead? Under maritime law, I mean." "Well, once we get there and confirm the whole crew is dead, we yell dibs to the universe," Kelly said. "We hook her up and tow her back to port with us and post it on the net. The owners of the ship have 1 month to transmit a claim on it. Otherwise, it's ours as salvage." "And if it is claimed?" Lucy asked. "We're owed a finder's fee of 7% of the ship's market value," Kelly said with a wide grin. "So," Mike said, "what's a ship like that go for? 2 billion? 3? "Probably closer to 4, Lucy said, feeling a bit of excitement. "So," Mike said, "what you're saying is, either way, we're going to be rich." "Only if there's no crew left alive," Kelly said. "Doesn't matter if he's in a coma. If he's still alive, the ship can't be classified as derelict." Mike held up one hand and made a show of crossing his fingers. "You asshole," Lucy growled at him. "I can't believe you. Those are people over there. And 7% of 4 billion split 3 ways is over 93 million each," Mike protested. "Even after taxes, none of us will ever have to work again." "What about radiation or toxins?" Kelly cut into their argument. "She's cold as far as radiation goes," Mike said, after a glance at his workstation. "Can't be sure about toxins. Scanners on this thing aren't exactly top of the line. We'll probably have to test their air manually once we're on board. If we're going on board, that is." "Probably the both of you," Kelly nodded. "Me?" Lucy cried. "Why me?" "Because I need somebody to download their flight recorder," Kelly said, "and Mike will be investigating engineering to see if he can figure out why they came to a complete stop before shutting down the reactor. And both of you will be looking for survivors. 2 pairs of eyes are better than 1. "Okay," Lucy said. "I'm not ashamed to admit how much this whole thing terrifies me." "Don't worry, babe," Mike said with a grin. "I'll be there to be all manly and shit and protect you from ghosts or zombies or whatever other weird-ass things we might find over there." "Great. Ghosts, zombies, weird shit, and a total creep," Lucy said in a forlorn voice. "This day just keeps getting better." "Hey," Mike said with a huge sleazy grin, "I resemble that remark." What say we get all hot and steamy over there where the boss can't do anything about it? You break the seal on your vacuum suits for any reason and you'll be floating home on your own, Kelly said. I'm not letting a possible contagion onto this ship. Ruin all the fun, why don't you? Mike sighed. Fun? Lucy asked. I think I'd rather be alone on the bridge full of dead officers than bumping uglies with you. You wound me, Mike cried. You're not my type, Lucy said. How do you know? Mike asked. I might be. You're definitely not, Lucy said. You don't have a vagina. Ah, man, Mike moaned. Why are all the hot ones gay? Lucy gave him a patronizing pat on the arm. She was mildly annoyed by the blatant sexism, but she'd dealt with worse. At least Mike didn't stare at her ass or chest all day long. She could tell that he wasn't being completely serious anyway, which was why she hadn't decked him. It's all right, she said. I'm sure there are plenty of straight women out there stupid enough to sleep with you. You just have to get them drunk enough. Kelly cleared her throat loudly. Yes, ma'am, Mike said. Shutting up, ma'am. Strap in, Kelly said. We're going to begin deceleration in 10. External cams on the big screen, Lucy said as she switched the forward camera feed to the large holographic display at the front of the bridge. Mostly it was black with a few stars. Even the Earth and Mars were just bright points of light at this distance. Of the man from Medan, there was no visual sign. That wasn't surprising. A lot of things blended in with a black backdrop. The ship could be painted bright yellow and neon pink polka dots and still be completely invisible until they were right on top of it. Space was really, really big, after all. Beginning deceleration now, Kelly said. Lucy felt herself pushed against her restraints as the retrojets on the front of the ship fired up. Her seat vibrated and shuddered as the Silver Star slowed on its approach to the other ailing vessel. 5,000 kilometers, Mike said. 4,000? 3,000? One click. 500 meters. I'll stop, Kelly said. And there she is. Lucy looked up at the big screen and saw the bulky freighter. It wasn't much to look at, but most ships were like that. When you built a ship in space, it didn't have to be aerodynamic, and freighters were built for function over beauty. It was a long, squared thing with odd protrusions from it, which would be lifeboats, comms and sensor equipment, and possibly weapons if they were smugglers, as Kelly suspected. At one end were the engines, 5 round nozzles in a box formation, with one in the center. Not much to look at, Lucy said. Are you kidding? Mike gasped. She looks like 93 million to me. Beautiful beyond words. Your eloquence and poetry brings a tear to my eye, Kelly said. Let's try to make contact one last time before you two head over. I've still got no life readings, Mike said. Humor me, Kelly replied. This is the Silver Star, hailing the man from Medan, Lucy said, opening a line. We're here in response to your distress call. Is there anyone still alive? There was no answer. If anyone aboard the man from Medan can hear us, please respond, Lucy said. More silence. Maybe whatever is causing that static we heard over the line earlier is interfering with comms and sensors, Kelly suggested. Flash a message in Morse code with our running lights. Lucy did as she was told, but the man from Medan remained dark and silent against the backdrop of space, as ominous and foreboding a sight as she had ever seen. All right then, Kelly said. Go suit up, both of you. I don't dare nudge us closer until we find out what happened over there. I'll monitor you both from here. Ooh, Mike said. I like being monitored. Lucy rolled her eyes as she undid her restraints and pushed out of her seat. Having grown up on a space colony, she was no stranger to zero-G. She liked to think that she was pretty good at getting around and doing things in it, and she'd always liked how it felt like she was flying, like some sort of kick-ass superheroine. She drifted through a hatch at the back of the bridge, which Mike had left open when he returned. The hallway behind was lined with other hatches. There were storage rooms and crew quarters, the bathroom, the mess hall, which also doubled as a medical bay, a small engineering compartment. At the end was the hatch that led to the cargo container, which was currently full of iron and nickel ore being transported from the asteroid belt where it was mined to the Feldmar foundries to be processed in the Lagrange Point 2 colony cluster. Lucy stopped herself with the handle on the wall beside her door and pulled herself through after opening the hatch. She liked to say that she'd been in shoe boxes that were larger and more luxurious. She could touch the walls if she stretched out her arms to her sides. The bed was a glorified sleeping bag attached to one wall. There were drawers built into the opposite wall with her clothes and personal items stored away inside them. One wall had a mirror on it, and below it was a computer terminal. Other than that, it was pretty much empty. Not that there was really any room for more. She had bitched about it when she'd first come on board, until Kelly showed her that the so-called captain's stateroom was the exact same size. As she stripped down to her skivvies, all she could think about were those last two words transmitted from the man from Medan. I die. It sent goosebumps spreading across her exposed flesh, and made all the little hairs on her arms and back stand on end. She did not want to go over there. She'd seen dead bodies before. She came from an industrial colony, and accidents were an everyday occurrence. But this was something completely different. There were stories about ghost ships drifting through the dark. She was about to set foot on one, except this one was real. Just stop thinking about it, she said to herself as she pulled on her vacuum suit and helmet. The heads-up display on the inside of the faceplate showed that the seals were all good, so she stuffed her discarded clothes into a drawer and left her room, heading for the cargo bay airlock. Mike was waiting for her as she entered the cramped lock. "Check my seals," he said. Though the suit computers checked the seals and monitored internal pressure, temperature, vitals, and air reserves, it was always wise to do a visual check. Lucy checked his suit over, and he did the same for her, giving her a thumbs up when he was done. They sealed the airlock and ran the cycle, which removed all air from it. "Here," Mike said, shoving the harpoon at her. "You're a better shot than I am." "You're damn right I am," Lucy said with a grin as she took it. The harpoon, as it was called, was basically just a pressurized pistol that fired a thin metal cord with a magnet on the end. It was used for getting around quickly out in space. You fired it at where you wanted to go, attached it to your suit, and reeled the cable back in, pulling you toward your destination. Mike attached his suit to hers with a carabiner on a line as the outer airlock door opened to space. Lucy grabbed onto the edge and pulled herself out, floating just outside the door as she oriented herself and found the man from Medan. Taking aim, she pulled the trigger, and with a puff of white vapor, the magnet disappeared into the space between the two ships, trailing its thin metal cable. After what seemed like a year and a half, a green indicator flashed on her HUD. "Capture," she said. "Damn, girl," Mike said. "Don't you ever miss?" "Nope," Lucy said, as she clipped the harpoon to the chest of her suit. "That would cramp my style. Hold on, here we go." She hit the button to reel in the cable and jerked into motion, sailing across the empty void to the other ship. Mike in tow, holding onto her boot for stability. Drifting through the emptiness of space like that made some people freak out, but Lucy had never minded it all that much. She could understand why, though. The universe stretched out forever in every direction around you. It could overwhelm you if you let it. It was always best to fix your eyes on your destination. That way you didn't fall into the trap of feeling like you're lost in space, or get vertigo and hurl inside your helmet. "You really feel how insignificant you are out here," Mike mused. "I can definitely feel how insignificant you are," Lucy replied. "Me, I've got significance bursting out of my every orifice." "That sounds messy," Mike said. "Yeah," Lucy agreed with a grin. "Cleanup is a bitch sometimes. It's not easy being this talented while also being this good-looking, but I do my best to press ever onward." The man from Medan grew steadily larger ahead of them. Soon it looked like a skyscraper. Class B freighters really were huge. It positively dwarfed the Silver Star. "Get ready to fire retros," Lucy said. "We're 50 meters. 30, 20, harpoon is stopped, hit the jets." Lucy poked at her palms with the middle two fingers on each hand to activate her suit's maneuvering jets. She was so familiar with using them from her childhood that the complicated patterns to get specific jets firing in specific ways came without thought, and soon she was attaching her magnetic boots to the hull of the dead ship, while Mike drifted past her and bounced off. She laughed as she grabbed onto the tether between them and reeled him in. She deactivated the magnet on the harpoon and reeled it the rest of the way in, leaving it attached to her chest. "Hey boss," Mike said, "you pull up a schematic of this thing yet?" You should have it in your suit's memory, Kelly said. Communication from the Silver Star was full of static and crackling pops. What the hell is up with comms? Lucy asked. Theirs were acting weird. Now ours are. Sometimes it's better not to ask, Mike said. Let's make this one of those times, right? His voice was perfectly clear over the speaker in Lucy's helmet. Weird, she said, as she pulled up the schematic of the ship on her HUD through a series of eye movements and blinks. Airlock is this way. They walked along the surface of the ship until they reached the airlock. Mike bent to operate the controls as Lucy looked up back toward the Silver Star. She could see the running lights flashing in Morse code again. Kelly must have still been trying to communicate with anyone on the other ship. In we go, Mike said as he pushed through into the airlock, pulling Lucy by the tether in after him. He closed the outer door and cycled the airlock. When it pressurized, he opened the inner door. It was dark inside. None of the lights were on. There was power, or else the airlock wouldn't have cycled, but either there wasn't enough to run the emergency lighting, or someone had deliberately turned it off. Well, doesn't that look inviting, Mike said, sounding like heading in any further was the furthest thing from his wants and desires. Lucy couldn't blame him. She blinked the command to her HUD to turn on her suit's lights. There were 2 atop the helmet and 1 on each forearm. Aiming one of her arm lights into the darkness, she found an empty hallway with rungs at even intervals to help people navigate without gravity. Turning, she shined the light in the other direction and found a corpse hanging in the air. Shit, she bit off, flinching back from the unexpected horror before her. Mike turned on his own lights, untethered himself from her, and pushed himself over to examine the body. Ah, man, he said, this is really freaky. Lucy moved to join him and winced as she looked at the body. It was a woman, hair cropped short like Lucy's. Her eyes were wide open, and her face was set in an expression of sheer terror. Both her arms were held up as if warding something off. What the hell, Mike said. Look at her. She looks like she's been dead for days. You're right, Lucy said, feeling more than a little queasy. You seeing this, boss? Yeah. Do you see any wounds or injuries? Kelly replied. I can't make any out from here. There's a lot of interference on the video feed. Nothing, Mike said, after both he and Lucy checked the body over for anything that would indicate a cause of death. I don't know if you can see her face, Lucy said, but she looks like she's died terrified. That's a pleasant thought, Kelly replied. And you say the body looks as though it's been dead a long time? Yeah, Lucy said, nodding, even though the captain couldn't see it. Can you check the timestamp on the transmission we received, boss? Timestamp matches the time we received it, Kelly replied, her voice almost unintelligible in the static. I can't imagine these people would just let a dead body float here for as long as she looks to have been dead, Lucy said. Maybe the transmission went out on some sort of timed delay. I can't think of any reason why, Kelly replied. You two know what your priorities are. Find out what happened over there and look for survivors. Engineering is this way, Mike pointed one way, and then the other. The bridge is that way. Parting is such sweet sorrow. And yet reuniting is even more sorrowful, Lucy said, flashing him a grin that she certainly didn't feel. Be careful, Mike said. I'll try to get the lights on when I get to engineering, but you don't want to be bouncing off shit in the dark. You too, Lucy said. Wanting to do anything but split up, Lucy turned toward the bridge and grabbed onto one of the rungs in the wall to push herself forward. More bodies this way, Mike said over the comm line as Lucy made her way to the bridge. All of them the same. They look like they died trying to hold something back. Definitely been dead a while, too. No signs of wounds or injuries. What the hell happened to these people? Lucy moved slowly, not wanting to run into any corpses before she could stop herself. She passed another body, the same as the first, eyes wide, mouth twisted in terror, arms up toward something off. I do not believe in aliens, she whispered to herself. I do not believe in aliens. Mike began whispering the same thing over the comm. A chill ran through Lucy as she stopped, grabbing onto a rung to halt her progress. My suit's thermometer still reads 37, she said, but I can feel a chill in here. Feels like it's seeping through my suit. I'm shivering. I feel it too, Mike said. What the hell? My thermometer reads 37 too. Lucy started up again, dialing her suit's internal heater up a bit. She passed several more bodies, all in the same state. I've made it to engineering, Mike said. Here come the lights. Nothing happened. Huh, Mike said. That's weird. That should have... Wait, look at the light fixtures. Lucy threw about for the nearest light fixture and saw that it was smashed out. What the hell, she said. Why would someone smash all of the lights? This place is making my skin crawl, Mike said. Yeah, Lucy agreed. It's like I can feel something watching me from the darkness, Mike said. Damn it, Mike, Lucy said. I do not need that image floating through my brain right now. I've already got enough horror movie clips flashing through it as it is. The problem was that Mike was right. Lucy could feel it too. It was an oppressive feeling of dread that was slowly rising. She could feel an intense paranoia growing deep within her, and it was making invisible eyes in every dark corner. Whoa, Mike said. Check out the electromagnetism in here. It's off the freaking charts. No wonder we feel like something's watching us. What does electromagnetism have to do with anything? Lucy asked. High levels can make certain people feel paranoid, afraid, and like they're being watched, Mike explained. Both of us must be sensitive to it. Doesn't explain that cold feeling, though. Could it have killed these people, Lucy asked. I can't see how, Mike said. I mean, they all look like they saw something out of their worst nightmares and keeled over from fright. Electromagnetism can't explain that. If it was focused enough to kill, these people would look like they'd been popped into the microwave. The bigger question is, what's causing it? Continuing on through several turns and past several more dead crew members, Lucy reached the bridge. She hit the hatch release button on the wall, but nothing happened. Sighing, she opened the panel below it for the manual lever. Bracing herself against the wall, she began pumping it until the hatch slid into the wall far enough for her to squeeze through. I've reached the bridge, Lucy said. Just like our friend said over comms. Looks like all the officers are here. All of them dead like the others. Her light shined on something in the corner, and she flinched back. It was a small, furry monster of some sort. This story is concluded in Part 3. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.